One Scottish producer with a particular interest in Yanis disease is Robert Parker, a Nuffield scholar who runs a closed herd of 150 sucklers at Drumdoo Farm near Stranraer in Wigtonshire. He's planning to develop a niche market for breeding heifers from his Black Baldy herd, a blend of Aberdeen Angus and Hereford blood, and is aware of the increasing concern of commercial cattle breeders about Yanis disease.
Yeah, I had a few problems a few years ago. Basically, my dairy herd, well, my beef herd has been sourced from dairy herds for the last few years, and I got to the point where I wasn't happy with the security of the animals that I was bringing in, the biosecurity. I wasn't happy with the breeding either, so I've actually gone down the route now of trying to breed my own replacements. A little while ago, I bought some Angus Hereford heifers, and I always felt that the best beef cow that I had in the place was a Hereford Friesian, but I just can't get them anymore, so they're now Holstein based. Probably Limousin Holsteins would be the ones I would be buying, or Angus Holsteins. So I wanted to get back to that type of Hereford, type of easy fleshing cow. And my neighbour, he has some of these Angus Herefords on the place, and I tried them, and I've found that they've really been a revelation for my beef herd. They've really improved what I'm trying to do. I think they're more profitable, they're certainly lasting longer, they're nicer cows too.
When you're selling animals for breeding, obviously health is quite an issue, so what are you doing to make sure that the heifers that you will be offering are of the highest health status? Yeah,
well, I joined a health scheme last year, so I've already been vaccinating for BVD and lepto for the last maybe 10 years. I did have a problem, it was mainly from bovine animals, so I've really done that for the last 10 years. I'm quite nervous about Yanis appearing. It seems to be the next one that's going to hit, so I am in a health scheme that is testing for Yanis. I think especially when I'm going to be breeding my own replacements, if you've got Yanis in the herd, that is just going to accelerate very, very quickly. It's something that will just go through the whole herd very quickly if you don't try and eradicate it.
You're in a health scheme, you're testing for Yanis, so what are the results so far?
Yeah, we've had a couple of kind of low false positives, and the rest are clear. So basically it's a clear first test. I've got another test this December. If that's clear, then I'm accredited.
If you were unlucky enough to get a positive in your next test, how would you react?
Yeah, well, obviously the positive animal would be culled straight away, along with any of its progeny and anything that was going to be used for breeding especially.
How concerned are you generally about Yanis? You say that, obviously it's in your mind, but what impact do you think it'll have on the beef industry if it does become a big issue?
Well, it's a very severe disease that makes a real mess of cattle, especially breeding. It's something that I'm quite nervous about. I'm lucky that most of the farm's surrounded by road, and I've done some double fencing as well, just to make sure.
Your breeding herd of females is closed, but as you've explained, you're buying in bulls.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to make sure that those bulls don't bring something in with them?
Well, again, I'm trying to buy them from known sources that are hopefully that he's Yanis free as well.
And what about other diseases? When you get the bull home on the farm, how do you make sure they're not bringing anything in?
Yeah, I would really have to, it would be subjected to a blood test and kept apart for a while until we were sure that it was okay.
But you're spending an awful lot of money on health, and you're trying to make sure that everything is just as right as it possibly can be. Before you put these heifers on the market, they've cost you a lot more money than if you weren't taking so much trouble. Do you think you'll get that money back?
Well, I think I'm going to get a certain amount of money back from the increased productivity from the cow. Obviously she's going to cause me less problems. Hopefully she'll last a bit longer. And if I'm selling breeding heifers, certainly I will need a premium. But the person that's buying these breeding heifers will obviously be buying them from a known source that's accredited, and he won't have any problems either. So I would hope that any buyer would pay a little bit more.
When it comes to animal diseases, one of the leading research establishments is the Morden Institute, based at the Pentland Science Park near Edinburgh. The scientific director is Professor Julie Fitzpatrick, who has no doubts about the importance of disease control for Scotland's farming industry.
Farmers have to look very much at what their business is involved in. Is it simply sheep? Is it cattle? Is it multiple species, different age groups, different types of farm units, even within the same holding? And I think it's an issue that has to be dealt with by the individual farmer, preferably in conjunction with the veterinary surgeon, because the partnership between the farmer and the vet is really key in deciding which aspects are the most important. I think one of the most important aspects, however, is quarantine. Because if you have a farm and the animals on your farm are relatively free of disease, or indeed free of certain diseases and pathogens, it's extremely important that you don't introduce them onto your farm if there's no need to do so. And I think nowadays we have very good systems. We have accreditation schemes which allow you to be fairly sure that the animals are actually free of certain diseases. And as I mentioned before, you can sample to find out if the animals require perhaps treatment or further quarantining before you take the risk of mixing them with your home stock.
One of the projects that the team of scientists at the Morden are working on is a diagnostic test for Yanis disease. So how long will it be before it becomes readily available?
It's a complex area. At the moment, we do have diagnostic tests which are available and are used, but they do need improving, and it's still a relatively long-term aim, but something that we are continuing to work on. And there's interest right across Europe in terms of improving the diagnosis of this condition.